Hello and welcome to the Road to the Garden podcast. We're presented by House Enterprise and in partnership with House of College Hoops. Head over to our site, house-enterprise.com for more info. We're coming at you live Wednesday night after the second night here of the Big East Big 12 battle. I am joined by Tommy Godin and Chris the Dinga. We're going to be breaking it all down. We got a lot of interesting storylines in the Big East over the last couple of days. Potentially the biggest matchup in all of college basketball in the non-conference between Creighton and Texas tomorrow night. But first, we're going to talk about what happened tonight. We got three big games in the Big East here, in the Big East Big 12 battle. We are aware that DePaul is currently playing and in a closer game than we anticipated, so we're going to be keeping an eye on that score. But while we do that, we're going to start here, I think, with the Butler-Kansas State game. I think if we had to sum up this game in two words, it's just Manny Bates. He was absolutely unbelievable against Kansas State. Chris, you're new here. We'll come to you first. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Manny Bates, I think we all had an idea of what he would be when he came over in the transfer portal, but this is vastly exceeding my expectations. And then Chuck Harris, he just makes shots. That's what he does. If Butler plays like this, they're a legitimate, top 5 Big East team. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I was out on a limb this summer having Butler at number 5 in the Big East, and games like this were the reason why. It's if they hit their shots, they're a good team. That is very much a question mark. This is the first time they've done it against a good team this year. Tommy, we talked after the Penn State game, a game where they didn't do it, and here they're able to flip the tables a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Another guy I wanted to talk about a little bit was Jaden Taylor, who also had a nice performance. He had the best plus minus on the team. He was a plus 21, which was outstanding for him. He was a little sloppy with his 5 turnovers, but he had a couple threes, and he looked like another key contributor for this Butler team.
Yeah, Jaden Taylor there, 12 points. He was 2 for 6 from deep. Simas Lukosius with 3 of 7 from deep. Chuck Harris, 2 of 3 from deep. All those guys hitting multiple shots. The team, 8 of 20. I mean, it's not the best performance they've had from deep, but it's the best performance they've had against a quality opponent. And I think Lunardi has Kansas State in the last 4 in, I believe, in the last bracket he had. So this is a win that should look good on the resume, should age well if Kansas State is the team that they're expected to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Kansas State, Keontae Johnson obviously is fantastic, and he showed that again tonight. I think he 10 for 10 or 9 for 9 or something like that. But Butler, I think the biggest thing for me coming into this game is could they limit the turnovers? And they did for the most part, 14 to Kansas State's 13. If they can compete in the turnover margin, they'll be right there in bigger games. So you look at the Tennessee game, if they had the same turnovers as Tennessee in that one, they're right there. So, I think this team is a little bit better than at least I thought in the preseason.
Yeah, and you talk about turnovers. I think what's important to note there is the first half where Kansas State has 9, Butler only has 5, and that was the half where they really took advantage. They held Kansas State to their worst first half in scoring all season long, and they were able to build that lead and then hold on to it for the rest. I thought the defense was incredibly impressive. That also goes back to Manny Bates there. Obviously, the double-double there, 22 points, 10 rebounds, but nobody's getting by him down low. I don't want to be the guy trying to shoot past him. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, dude, he's such a beast. I love him. We had our little private conversation with him at media day. It was like his own little table. He was the man on and off the court. But yeah, Butler, there was a lot of change, new coach, a couple transfers coming in. There's going to be ebbs and flows in the beginning of the year. One thing that they did well is they went, for all intents and purposes, wire to wire in this game. Yeah. I mean, they were down. They were losing for about a minute the whole game. And there's going to be ebbs and flows with a lot of change, but they held steady for most of the game, and that's what you like to see from a team with a lot of changes in the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. And Kansas State made a run here. I mean, they pulled it within 5 in the second half there. and Butler answered. And you saw that a little bit at the end of the first half, too, at different points where Kansas State started to make a run and put things together. And Butler answered the bell. That right there, I mean, that's what good teams do. That's what great teams do. Good teams get leads. Great teams keep them. And that right there is what Butler was able to do, keeping a good team at arm's length for the entire. That's a great point, Tommy. It was 58 seconds that Kansas State led in this one. So usually if that's how it goes, you're doing something right. When it comes to doing something right, though, there was not a lot of that in the other two Big East Big 12 battle games tonight. Providence loses to TCU in a game that was not really competitive in the second half. Georgetown loses a game at Texas Tech in a game that was surprisingly competitive in the second half. I think we start with that one because that's a little bit more interesting. I don't think anybody gave Georgetown a chance at Texas Tech there. And all of a sudden you look up and it's a 1-point game with 3 minutes and change, or is it 5 minutes left, whatever that was. I did not see that one coming. I'm not entirely sure how Georgetown pulled this off. I don't. Do you guys have any insight on what exactly happened with Georgetown tonight?
Well, how much stock do we put into, Texas Tech was up 15 at half. Did they just ease off the gas pedal and Georgetown, scraped into the game, and then Texas Tech woke up and they won by 14? I don't know. I don't know how much to put into Georgetown winning the second half by 1 point. I don't know.
Yeah, I did just say that was a good teams get leads and great teams hold them, and yeah, that's exactly what Texas Tech just did to Georgetown, even though there was a scare. It's just, I think the optimistic part is that team looked as good as the talent was. Talent-wise, this team is not competitive with Texas Tech, but they were kind of competitive at points, which is what you would expect that game to be. This is an improvement over the Georgetown that we've seen be competitive with Coppin State and losing to American, at least, which is still bottom of the Big East, but closer to being a tournament team than the team we saw before Thanksgiving, at least.
And this is with Wahab going 0 for 4 with 0 points on the day. If you get contribution out of him, then yeah, this game is, hey, you never know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think you're still looking at that buyout option if you're a Georgetown fan right now. But
yeah, I have no idea. I mean, going through the box score now, it looks like just Texas Tech domination. I mean, they dominated the rebounds 41-23, including 13-6 on the offensive board. Speaking of 13-6, they had 13 steals to Georgetown 6. They shot. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was a 14-point win at the end, but yeah, I mean, I know I was pulling for Georgetown hard. I don't know how they got it to 1 late in the second half, but
yeah, I don't know if we can extrapolate anything from that, anything meaningful down the stretch here. I don't think there was any kind of big change with Georgetown, but
no,
it's a moral victory a little bit, and I think the team needed that.
They got some fight in them.
Yeah, they got that dog in them a little bit. More dog in them than we thought last week.
Hoya in them.
They got that Hoya in them. Yeah. Providence, on the other hand. Obviously, I'm the Providence guy of the three of us, so I want to hear the outside opinions of what exactly happened in that game, because I know these players pretty well, and I feel like I have a good idea of what's going on, but I want to hear what it looks like from the outside and what that perspective is.
Yeah, it's just kind of a collective sigh, I think, from Big East fans. It's just like a disappointed sigh, of course. But it's like, if this team put it together, I think the talent's there. I do. They missed 10 free throws. They shot 20% from 3. They had 18 turnovers. And it's like, oh, man, that's easy to say. If you did all these things well, you'll be awesome. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they put it together this year or not. They kind of look like just a bunch of good but disjointed pieces to me. Obviously they miss Nate Watson and Al Durham, but the guy I think they really miss is somebody like Noah Horkler, who kind of is the glue guy, does everything well, hits clutch shots, gets loose balls. I think they kind of miss somebody like that on the floor.
Yeah, you're replacing Noah Horkler, a guy who is a 40% three-point shooter, something in that range, I think a little bit under, and who could basically get a double-double whenever he wanted when it came to rebounds, with Bryce Hopkins, who's a good player, but just He's young. He has the talent to do that, but he's not that guy yet. And last year's team had Horkler and AJ Reeves who could help with that, and Justin Minaya who could help with that. And it's Bryce Hopkins and Bryce Hopkins alone on the wing right now. There's no help coming for him. It's him or nothing at that position. And yeah, I think you're spot on there. How does it look from the Villanova side of things when you're looking at Providence right now, Tommy?
Well, you don't want to look at anything from the Villanova side of things right now, so let's pump the brakes on that one. But I thought we were going to replace Noah Horkler with another Noah and Noah Locke. Outstanding 3-point shooter. Now, we knew that this was going to come with Providence. We talked about it in our Providence preview. This path to success is not going to be a straight one for this team. I think Chris hit the nail right on the head. This team has a lot of talent. You saw that tonight with Bryce Hopkins, Devin Carter, 17 each. Jaden Pierre looked all the parts of a key piece for this team. They have the talent to put it together. They sure as hell have the coach to put it together. But there's going to be poles, and this was definitely the South Pole of that one.
Yeah, and the Friars now had 3 opportunities here in non-conference play to get quad 1 wins, and are now 0-3. They got a game at URI that we're going to talk about later this weekend. After that, it's a couple easy games. They get Manhattan in there at home, a program that is absolutely in shambles, and a couple other not very good teams, and then you're into Big East play. So this is the resume building out of conference is done for the Friars. I think the most frustrating part of this too, Jared Bynum has been a complete no-show this season. Apart from passing, he's passed the ball well. He doesn't turn it over that much. He cannot score. Bynum tonight 1 for 8 from the field, 0 for 4 from deep, 0 for 2 from the free throw line. He only had 2 points to play 28 minutes. We're at the point now where this guy was preseason first team All Big East. Now we're talking about benching him for a freshman. That's how far this has gotten, because this is the 3rd or 4th game now where Jaden Pierre has outplayed him.
What did you think of the Jaden Pierre start today?
Oh, well, Pierre didn't start today.
Did he not?
No. They made a change there in the lineups, but it was to put in Clifton Moore. So they actually started with 2 centers on the floor.
Gotcha.
And immediately the 8 of TCU's first 11 points came in the paint, even though the Friars had 2 centers out there. So they pulled the plug on that. And when the team got going in transition, the points happened. In the half court, this team has nothing. You mentioned the 3-point shooting too. It's hard to do anything in the half court when you can't shoot the 3 ball. It's like trying to play football without throwing a pass. There's going to be no room. You're not going to be able to do anything. You might get something every once in a while, but it's all isolation for these guys. And the passing is bad too. A lot of these turnovers were passes right to guys that were dropped. And it's just it does not look like these guys have played together before.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, it just looks like it's a lot of good pieces playing together literally for the first time. And it's frustrating because if you gave this group of guys a year to figure it out before games started to matter, I think they'd be really good. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And Ed Croswell is just not Nate Watson. You can't work through him, and that's a bummer. I had bigger expectations for him coming into the year than I think he's going to live up to.
Yeah, I did too. I think it was actually not that hard to argue last year that the Providence offense was more efficient with Croswell out there than with Watson out there, the way things ended up working. And then you make him now you're taking Bynum and Croswell, who were both electric last year. You elevate them to the starting lineup, and it's not working in prime time. So the Friars have 3 centers right now in Moore, Croswell, and Castro. Castro is a redshirt freshman, ridiculously talented. If you guys haven't seen some of the stuff from the exhibition games, he's 6'11", and he can run the floor, dribble, like he's going end to end. He's got crazy talent. It's just he's still very raw, but he got the second most minutes at the center position tonight, which I think is interesting. It's the rotations are absolutely still a work in progress for this team. I think that also applies to Georgetown too. They don't know what players are good right now and who to put in there. I know Denver England got a little bit of run tonight finally, and I think that's the story for the bottom of the Big East right now, is a lot of teams still figuring out who to even put on the floor. And we're going to talk about Villanova later because they have a game on Saturday. I think that also applies to them right now, and you can't figure out who to put on the floor, you're going to be in trouble.
Matt, that was the first time in over a decade that I've heard a segue going from bottom of the Big East to a Villanova comment. So I want to thank you for that. Speaking of historically bottom of the Big East, DePaul is down by 1 to Samford, under 8 timeout. Just wanted to give you a little. It's 73-72 with 7 minutes left in the game.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know DePaul's down on Genda there. Is Yorine playing? If he's out, then I think they're down to their third string center, and that probably explains a lot of that.
Yeah, it sure does. An ad played, and I don't want to play it out loud, so I will get back to you on that.
Yeah, I will say if you're looking for a little bit of live coverage of that, our own Lawrence Kramer has that on Twitter, so go give him a follow and check in with that. But yeah, that's what happened tonight in the Big East for the most part. Xavier had a huge win over Southeast Louisiana, I believe it was, Southeastern Louisiana, as expected. That's the Xavier team I think we all thought we'd see. I don't know if there's anything to add to that other than Xavier is a much better team than Southeastern Louisiana.
Yeah, don't look at my bet the house bet on that one.
Oh my God.
Did you bet them to cover?
I did bet on Southeastern Louisiana. I thought it was a sleepy spot for Xavier, and that shows like Sean Miller. I mean, he's a good coach, and he knows how to motivate his guys for every game. I could see them, looking forward big time to that West Virginia game they host on Saturday. But no, they showed up in this one and competed from start to finish. So good for them.
You want to talk about the bet the houses pick? My lock of the week was Baylor minus 6.5.
Well, that'll segue us perfectly here. So we want to look back at the kind of the stories that have happened in the Big East since Sunday, and there is no bigger story right now in the Big East than what you just mentioned right there, Tommy. Marquette destroys Baylor really from start to finish. It was from about 2-3 minutes after tip through the end. Marquette controlled that one. Nobody really saw that one coming. We put up a poll earlier, and you guys, our fans, said that this is the biggest win in the Big East so far this year. Tommy, I'll start with you. Do you think that's the case? Is this the biggest win in the Big East?
Absolutely. Until Creighton wins tomorrow against
good man.
Texas. Yeah, I mean, Baylor was winning 7-2. And I was thinking, all right, my minus 6.5 pick, it's looking all right. I'm gonna go brush my teeth, get ready for bed. I come back, the score was 25-9. What the hell happened? I had no idea what was going on. It was just such an uncharacteristic night for Scott Drew and Baylor just in general. It was crazy. But yeah, to answer your question, definitely the win of the year so far.
Yeah, do you agree there, Chris?
I do. I think I do. Shaka as a dog is unbelievable. Marquette tends to not be as good under him when they are the favorite. So I am very interested to see now that they're probably going to be more favored in some games coming up, how they respond to that. But yeah, I mean, shoot, they forced Baylor into like a million turnovers. I think they had like 22. I don't have it in front of me, but it was something crazy.
They forced 20. I think 2 of them were dead ball turnovers or whatever. So it was 18 on players, 20 total turnovers. Marquette led by 26 at the half, led by as many as 32 in the second half, ended up winning 96-70. He had 24 points from Omax Prosper, 20 from Cam Jones, and 19 from David Joplin. Those 3 guys combined to go 10 of 15 from deep. Hit your shots and you're going to win games.
Yeah, I mean, they had 51 points in the first half. Yeah. That's 16 more than Baylor gave up to UCLA in late November. Mm-hmm. Prosper's 24 is the highest they've allowed this season. Like, we're talking about uncharacteristic for Baylor. I mean, this was just an outlier. I mean, it's the first time all year that Baylor's had 20 people, or not 20 people, had 2 people score at least 20 points in a game. And Kolek is still dishing the ball out at an incredible rate. He's a wizard.
I think this is one of the things about the Shaka Smart style that's interesting too, is that if the offense starts making shots, then you force the opponent to inbound, which means you can set up the press and cause chaos and then get your transition buckets and disrupt the other team. So once you get the lead, it tends to snowball. Look, I mean, you look at Marquette last year when Marquette beat Providence in that game and started that winning streak, that's what it was. They just got going, they got it rolling, and it was over, and they won by 30 points. I think they did that to Villanova at one point in there. They had that over another opponent. Yeah. So yeah, that's what Shaka Smart does. He has his guys now too. I think it's the way the team fits together is really good. Is it Sean Ross, or is it?
I think so.
Yeah, there's the two freshmen that they have there who are so good. Chase Ross, Sean Jones, that's what it is. Chase Ross, he only played 18 minutes. He had 4 steals. It's remarkable.
And yeah, David Joplin. If David Joplin can give them 19 off the bench consistently, they're going to be really hard to beat. I thought they would miss Greg Elliott a little bit more than they do. The other guards have stepped up, and that proves to be no problem. Oso is fantastic, by the way. I mean, just another Big East big that's just really, really good.
We're going to have a conversation about that at some point, about how these Big East bigs rank up, because there's so many good ones right now. He didn't show up as much on the stat sheet. He only had 10 points, but he made such an impact at the defensive end. 7 rebounds, 2 blocks. And I think one of the things you notice, too, when they play the press, Osa has to get all the way back and get under the basket and defend that, and he did that really well. And when Baylor broke the press and got guys through, he was still disrupting shots. And then he'd get down the other end and run the floor and be in the offense. There was I think it was the play that made it 7-6 or something like that for Marquette. He gets a deflection at one end and then runs down the court, and it's 5-on-4 because the guy whose shot he blocked is still on the ground, and he gets a free basket. Like, that's, you got what is he, 6'9"? He looks way bigger than that. I don't believe that height. But you get a guy like that who can run the floor, and that's impressive.
Yeah. Quick DePaul update before we keep going. Down 1, 5 minutes left.
Oh boy.
I got the stat broadcast up too. This is awesome. This is like an NBA game watching this live. Every time you go back, the score change. I can only imagine watching this game. It's probably the most fun game to watch. I envy the ball fans. That's going to be the first and last time you're going to hear me say that. But
what is going on in this podcast? We're talking about Villanova at the bottom of the conference, envying DePaul fans, and
yeah.
I don't know how the Bulls are doing tonight, but DePaul might be the most interesting show in town right now.
They gotta be.
I don't know if playing a close game to Samford is the best example of that, but
yeah, it doesn't look like Angenda's playing.
No, he's still out. They're down guys, and Caleb Murphy's still out for them. It's not great, so I don't know what to make of DePaul. I think it's kind of hard to judge them in their current state. Their win over Minnesota still looks weird, so yeah. One question here on Marquette. They got a tough schedule coming up. We're going to talk about their game this Saturday. They play Wisconsin. They're going to play a game at Notre Dame. Their very first conference game is against Creighton. Do we think what they did against Baylor is sustainable, or was this a one-night thing? Tommy, I'm going to come to you first on that one.
I think it's somewhere in the happy medium of that. I don't think it's a one-night thing because they have the talent to replicate this performance again. But like a lot of these teams in the Big East, it's not fair to expect that consistently from this Marquette team. So will they do it again? Yeah, absolutely. But doing it consistently, no, I don't see that happening for them.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I would echo that response. I mean, they're a good team. They're a nice team, but I mean, shoot, they're nowhere near, to me, the Creighton, UConn, even throw Xavier into that bubble mix. Like, they're just not there. So yeah, if you consider 5th or 6th place a win for them, then yeah, absolutely. I think they could do that. But nothing close to this every day for them. Absolutely not.
No, if they shot over 50% from deep, you do that every day, you're going to be in the national championship.
Right.
Yeah,
see North Carolina for 6 games.
Yeah. I think I think moving up to 5th place in the Big East is a win for them, especially with the 5th place team in the Big East should be dancing. This is what Marquette did last year. They were picked 9th, were better than expected, moved up to 5th with a couple tiebreakers, not a hot streak, and you make the dance. And I think that's a reasonable expectation for this team at this point, especially when you look at Providence kind of falling off here, Villanova not being what we expected. We're going to talk about Seton Hall in a minute here with their loss to Siena, but Seton Hall has not been the team people expected they could be. And all right, seems like St. John's and Xavier and Villanova and not Villanova, UConn and Creighton. That's your top 4. That 5th spot is absolutely open right now, and I think Marquette's got to be holding it. I think that's probably where they're going to be in our power rankings if everything goes to plan. We put that out on Sunday.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It would be hard to put anyone below them above Marquette right now, I think.
Yeah, I agree there. Let's talk about the team, though, that's really going to be in the conversation for a top spot. And we could touch on this briefly. We talked about it on Sunday. I haven't heard from either of you guys on UConn. And they did win the Phil Knight Invitational there over Iowa State in the championship there. Adama Snogo, only 4 points, and it doesn't matter. Donovan Klingon still in the show. This might be a silly question, but my first thought when I look at this, is it possible that the Big East Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year come from the same team and playing the same position?
That'd be crazy. That honestly would be crazy. I mean, we talked about it in our league preview. I think whoever makes the trophies for the Big East Conference, I think they got Cam WHIT. They gotta start over.
Yeah,
they gotta take Cam Whitmore off the Freshman of the Year trophy. That was penciled in.
UConn has the two kind of leaders in the clubhouse right now with Caravan too. I mean, Whitmore hasn't played, and he's going to be starting from behind.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to have an uphill battle too. This kid's legit. But yeah, I mean, Klingon's an absolute mountain as well, and a very athletically gifted mountain at that. We were talking about Marquette being top 5 in the conference. I think UConn is making an argument to be top 5 in the country.
Yeah.
They're deep, they're tough, they're defensively capable, they're tall as hell. I mean, when you talk about their ceiling, it's their floor is a lot of team ceilings. I don't have enough good things to say about UConn right now.
Yeah, Dan Hurley's put together something simply terrific this year, and a very fun group to watch as well.
Yeah, Dan Hurley before the season said this was his best team he's ever had, I think, and I shook my head and I was like, okay, Dan Hurley, sure. And I think it is. I think this is the best team he has ever had at UConn. And you guys were talking about Klingon. I don't know if I have ever. Well, I take that back. I can think of a couple guys, but 7'2" guys as good with the basketball and coordinated as he is. I mean, not many, especially as a freshman. It's really impressive.
Look out, Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, he's incredible. And I think the thing that stands out to me too about this UConn team is it's how deep his scoring gets, how many guys can shoot the basketball for him. That's been the issue for UConn the past couple of years. They're a tough defensive team that can't shoot the ball very well. And one off night from any of their top scorers, and they're out. We saw that in the NCAA tournament. Well, they got 5 guys who can shoot the basketball right now. And the Big East Player of the Year there in the middle, Adama Sanogo, and you make it all work in this team. I mean, the parts just fit perfectly. I have to praise Dan Hurley for that. It's not just building talent; it's building a team here, putting things together in a way that's cohesive and makes sense. And I think he learned a lot from the past 2 seasons.
The Tristan Newton experience has panned out very well. I didn't know how he would translate to the Big East coming from East Carolina, but he fills the RJ Cole role pretty well. I mean, obviously he doesn't quite. I mean, RJ Cole was such a leader, and I don't know if Tristan Newton's there right now, but he's been a very good point guard, a very passable point guard for this team. So that is a very good sign.
Yeah, RJ Cole had that dog in him in a way few players do. We're going to talk about Seton Hall next. I feel like Alamir Dawes has a little bit of that RJ Cole in him with that attitude. I don't know who else has that in the Big East these days. Yeah, I think Newton's a better complement to what they do despite RJ Cole being such a good player for them.
Yeah, another one, Andre Jackson against Iowa State. He's been a key piece. He had 13, 10, and 5 off the bench for them against Iowa State. I mean, that was you can talk about the depth for this UConn team. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's remarkable. They got a first-team caliber guy there, and Andre Jackson, who's working his way back from an injury. This is the first real good game he's given them, and he opens up the floor for them. The way he passes is fantastic when he isn't throwing it up into the bleachers. So it's when you put it all together, I mean, it's Andre Jackson being the sixth man for this team right now is unfair because he's a starter on every other team in the Big East except potentially Creighton. Everybody else, though, he's starting.
Yeah.
If you look at the Ken Palm, like, if you go into the Ken Palm site and you click on Connecticut and it shows like the depth chart over the past 5 games, everyone is bright green. Like the entire roster is performing so well for UConn. It's unbelievable. I mean, shoot, if this was March right now, I would be having a hard time picking anyone to beat them. I hate saying that, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's, again, the back half of the show, once we get to it, we're gonna be talking about Creighton, Texas, because that's the other team that's in that conversation. But yeah, UConn looks unstoppable right now. We're also gonna be talking about the Seton Hall, Kansas game, which I think has lost its luster a little bit, given Seton Hall fell to Siena on Sunday in a game we didn't even preview on the podcast because we didn't think it was gonna be that interesting, and this happened. I just want to read you guys what it is that Shaheen Holloway said after the game. This is a direct quote of his. Quote, "Came out flat, no energy. Never been a part of something where guys don't want to play basketball. Saw it this morning in the walkthrough. We had nothing." That's that's strong talk towards your own players, and I think that this is the trouble that comes trying to build a new culture in a new place.
Yeah, and he went on to say the sad thing is that the 2 best players on the court were from Siena. And this was a team that he, for all intents and purposes, handpicked. So, I mean, he did say he was a straight talker. I guess we're seeing that. I mean, I don't think Siena, the sky's not falling for Seton Hall. I mean, obviously, this is going to leave a big bad blemish. Siena beat Florida State earlier this month. And Seton Hall was coming off a decent win. It was a 1-point win against Memphis. So, I mean, this game was about as ugly and sloppy as you could ask for, but hey, you got Kansas tomorrow, so another chance to bounce back.
Yeah. We just want to move on and start talking about these games that are coming up tomorrow?
Give me the Creighton game, Matt.
All right. We're going to get into that. But first, I got a little ad to read for you guys. We've teamed up with SeatGeek this season to get you the best deals for tickets to your favorite teams. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, and they're here to give you some great deals. Get in on the fun and head over to SeatGeek, download their app, and use code NCAA Hoops Digest for $20 off your first purchase. Yep, the code works. Go use it. Support us. We would appreciate that. So you guys should definitely go do that. Let's look ahead now because the Big East Big 12 battle is only just beginning. We got a great game tomorrow night. Chris, this is why you're here. You're our Creighton guy. It's number 6 Creighton at number 2 Texas. I think this is 7 o'clock Eastern on Thursday night. What are your thoughts? I mean, before we even get that, how excited are you for this game?
I'm pumped. I think, in my opinion, this is the biggest non-conference game outside of, NCAA tournament picture that Creighton's ever had. I really do believe that. So yeah, I'm jazzed. This is going to be awesome. There's a lot of storylines to look at, and obviously Christian Bishop faces Creighton for the first time since leaving, and everyone's really stoked after performing pretty well in Maui. It's going to be a lot of fun, Matt. I'm going to enjoy myself.
The Christian Bishop Bowl. I know. I think when we did the preview before the season, I think we talked about how we wish this game was in Omaha for that reason and the crowd aspect. But this is a crowd that we saw how the Texas crowd got into it for the Gonzaga game, the way they steamrolled them. So this is the number 2 team in the country. Creighton has never beaten a team in the top 2 before. Do they get it done Thursday night? And if so, how?
I think they do. I really do think they win this. For a couple of reasons. One, they're a little bit more battle-tested than Texas. I know Texas blew the doors off of Gonzaga, but they haven't played in a close game at all, anything remotely close to a close game. Creighton's had 3 straight close ones, and they pulled out 2 of them, if you count that Texas Tech as a close game. And I think Creighton's a little bit more balanced. If you look up and down their lineup, their starting 5, everyone has taken between 58 and 73 shots. So, you can't focus on one or two guys, right? If you lock down Kalkbrenner, okay, there's 4 other creators and shot makers on the floor. And it's just very hard to guard teams that have 5, independent variables that can create, shoot, and make something happen off the dribble. Texas is obviously very talented. They're a very good team. But I think they have shot better than their stats will say at the end of the year. I don't think that they're going to shoot, what is it, like 40% from 3 on the season. It's not going to happen. The Gonzaga performance, I think, will look back and say, oh man, that was probably Texas's best game of the year.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a chance of that. And I mean that's the only big game. This is the only good opponent that Texas has touched. This is as big of a test for Texas as it is for Creighton here. Creighton came in with the hype. Texas didn't quite get this hype coming in until they won that game. Tommy, are there any matchups in this game in particular that you're looking forward to, or anything interesting that jumps out to you?
Well, yeah, Dylan Mitchell against Ryan Kalkbrenner. I mean, I think Dylan Mitchell is going to be the most athletic big Creighton's faced this year. I mean, you had Baylor from Arizona, who was decent, but not the most athletic. Dylan Mitchell is that guy when it comes to athleticism. I do think Creighton overall will have a very big advantage in the front court. They'll just need to check Mitchell. Kalkbrenner's really stepped up his game offensively as well. So I guess we're going to see how much against a very stout Texas team. I mean, Texas's team defense, from what I've seen so far in the 2 games that I've watched them play, have been solid. They're going to force Kalk to be a playmaker. Chris kind of spoke on it a little bit. There's 4 guys that he can play make 2 that are willing, able, and capable of scoring. But I think if Texas is going to pull this game out, they're going to have to convert opportunities from 3. Ramey and Tyrese Hunter could eat. Creighton not great at defending the 3 so far this year. Texas good at shooting the 3. It's going to be a very strong backcourt against a very strong front court, and going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, this is Texas forced 20 turnovers in that Gonzaga game, and 9 of those turnovers came from Drew Timme and Julian Strother, guys who are going to kind of play in the front court there. So I think that's going to put a lot of emphasis on Arthur Kaluma, Baylor Shireman, and Ryan Kalkbrenner to play well with the ball and not lose it, not be what we saw in the first half of that Texas Tech game. You can afford one half of it like you did in that one, maybe. You can't have that for a full game. You do that, you're going to lose. How does it look at the battle of the backcourts here? Tyrese Hunter and Marcus Carr is one of the best backcourts in all of college basketball, but so is Ryan Nembhard and Trey Alexander on paper. I think this is just really high-level basketball going back and forth, and that's going to decide a lot of this.
Yeah. The biggest, point in Texas's column for me is being able to throw so many bodies at Kalkbrenner. You got obviously Mitchell and then Dylan Dessou, Christian Bishop, Brock Cunningham. There's just a lot of front court depth where Creighton is a little bit less in that area, right? Fred King's been really good. I think he's, outperformed my expectations for him in when he's in for Kalkbrenner. But I mean, there's just not a lot else, as far as bigs go. So Kalkbrenner, fortunately, the one thing he does exceptionally well is he defends well without fouling. But I am sure they will take a page out of the Arizona playbook and just go right at him. If he's not going to foul, then okay, we're just going to force him to defend, 40 possessions of the game on the block. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that the depth is just a huge factor here in general. I don't think Farabello has been anything fantastic. I mean, he's fine depth, but he's not going to win you this game on his own in all likelihood. So Creighton plays 7 deep, 8 deep, but really it's 5 deep with a couple guys who can come in and hold their own until the other guys get back in there. And I think that's probably the biggest issue with this team. If you look at it, if they're going to lose games, it's going to be because guys get in foul trouble or because guys get gassed or because in the minutes when the starters aren't out there, they are losing them. And
yeah, it was weird. Creighton has had a couple times. They had a couple times in Maui where they played four bench pieces on the court at the same time, and they got absolutely blown away in those minutes. Like if you play Mason Miller, Sharif Mitchell, Stolzberg can get it done at times, but having a couple of those guys at the floor at the same time has just not worked out well for Creighton so far this year.
No, almost half of Creighton's minutes over the last 5 games have come with that starting lineup on the floor. Those are the guys that they're going to have out there, and that's including a blowout against UC Riverside in there, and a blowout against Holy Cross, where you got guys who aren't playing, and that's going to impact it. I think you also worry about wear and tear in general. This is 4 consecutive ranked games, 4 consecutive physical games. Having no time off from the last one definitely helps. They needed to rest up, but it's hard to beat that many teams in that many days, especially when they're this good and you're away from home and all that. Like it's not a ding on Creighton if they lose this one. If you win, Creighton has the best win in college basketball so far this season.
Now, Tommy, if Creighton wins this game, okay, where are they at in the AP poll come Monday? Number 2? Could you make a case?
I would say 3? 2 or 3, yeah.
Virginia probably slides up to 2, and then Creighton 3.
Yeah, it's got to be it.
Yeah, it's something in there, and has Creighton been that high before?
So they are number 7 in the AP right now. That is tied for the highest they have ever been.
Yeah. Could we have 2 Big East teams in the top 5?
It's possible.
Yeah. Do I have that reversed on the graphic? Do I have that? Oh, it's 7 and 8, not 6 and 7. That's where I got that wrong. Let me update that graphic real quick for you. But yeah, that's incredible. It's a fantastic start so far for Creighton. Let's talk about that other team, though, that you mentioned that's in the top 10. We talked about UConn, and they're going to be playing Oklahoma State at home. This game, I think, is this the 6:30 game that night? It is 6:30 on FS1. The Creighton-Texas one is 7 Eastern on ESPN. Oklahoma State at UConn is 6:30 Eastern on FS1. And they're actually favored by quite a bit. I don't know if we have actual betting lines on this, but Ken Palm has UConn by 10 points against a very good Oklahoma State team. Tommy, do you think they can cover that? You think they can cover a 10-point spread here at home?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I need to add anything to that, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think I don't even know if winning. I mean, they should win. Do you foresee any situation here where they're going to come back and not be as hot as they were before? Or
yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State. We're talking about the line. We don't know if the line's out yet. One thing I would be interested in this game for all the people that are interested in is the under. I think both of these teams are very good defensively. Oklahoma State kind of reminds me of where UConn was at last year, kind of relying on their defense and just having their offense kind of figure it out as they go. This is going to be a bigger game for Oklahoma State than it is for UConn. Obviously, I don't think UConn will have any trouble winning this game. Oklahoma State's coming in hot. They won 3 in a row. They'll be looking for 4. UConn's never beat Oklahoma State, but that might change by this time tomorrow.
I've watched 2 Oklahoma State games this year, and one they beat DePaul by 4, and then they lost to UCF in overtime. I think those are favorable results for UConn. I think UConn is significantly better than 4 points better than DePaul.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think it would take something seriously surprising happening for UConn to not take this one by 10 plus, even 15 plus points. And that's no shade to Oklahoma State. That's just the kind of basketball the Huskies are playing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about that last one. We got Seton Hall going on the road here to take on number 9 Kansas, the defending national champion, although a team that has not looked quite as good as I think people kind of expected them to look this season. They've been good. They haven't been the best team. And I don't know if they've even been a top 10 team the way they've played. Does Seton Hall have a chance here of going on the road, taking that defense into that building and shutting up that crowd?
For all the people that will be listening in the Spotify and Apple Music crowd, the crowd shook their head no. Very
yeah, it's very
sad.
Convincingly.
But I mean, Vegas knows, right? It's a 7.5 point line in Vegas. Ken Palm has it at 8. Kansas, they're hurt right now. Cam Martin is out. Kevin McCullers is day to day. Bobby Pettiford is out until at least later on.
I think McCullers is going to be out for this one, from what I've heard from the Kansas side.
Yeah, so that makes sense. You're a Patriots fan, right, Matt?
That I am.
Thursday Night Football.
Yeah,
I'd tune into that one.
not into this one. This will be the late game. It should be 9:00 there on ESPN at Allen Fieldhouse. Yeah, are you feeling the same way on this one, Chris?
Yeah, even if McCullers is out, I think Joseph Yesufu can step in and play more minutes effectively. I don't know. I think Seton Hall probably loses by 8-12. I just don't. I think that team has problems right now, and I don't know if they get it fixed in the 4 days or whatever it is between last game and then in the Kansas game.
Yeah, I will add, if there's a way that they end up winning this game, I think it's going to be because Shaheen Holloway is able to get his team fired up and ready to go for it. That's the way you win this one. Is you go out there and you play that defense. You get a couple stops early. The defense did not look very good against Iowa. It looked all right against Oklahoma. If they can get that truly great defensive performance that those guys I think are capable of, and this is a Kansas offense that's been very inconsistent, maybe you can muck it up and you can make it first team to 60 type of game. That's the path to victory for Seton Hall in this one. I think they can do it if they come out fired up and play like a team. I am just not confident that that's actually what's going to end up happening. I see the path. I don't know if I buy it. Tommy, you got an update for us?
I do have an update. I've been watching this game on the side of my monitor right here, and I was going to talk about it. The line for this game was 4.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is the DePaul Samford game?
Yeah, I'm sorry, DePaul Samford. The line for this game was 4. DePaul was up, I believe it was 4 or 5. It was at least 4. I believe it was 5 with like 30 seconds left. We're headed to overtime, folks. We got some free basketball at 89-89. The line was 154 for the under over. They smashed that. This game is going to go into triple digits. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, DePaul.
DePaul Samford, the game that it's always the game you don't expect. This is
3 seconds left and Umoja Gibson turnover, according to the stat broadcast.
Yeah, that's not great there. Yeah, so we might not even have an update. That one might not be over by the time we are done recording this podcast. We're at 47 minutes into this, and that is a 5-minute overtime. So it's gonna be racing the clock here. Let's go back to looking ahead.
Hold on, real quick, guys. Yeah. DePaul is shooting 53% from deep, and they're tied with Sanford going into overtime. Are you kidding me?
16 for 30.
Good Lord.
Javon Johnson's 5 for 6. Phil Geberwitz 3 for 5.
that game is like 9 shots deep right now.
Yeah. Speaking of 9 shots deep, let's talk about Saturday. A little Big East action.
Saturday is an absolutely loaded day here in the Big East. A lot of basketball. It's a good rivalry day here. We got two in-city rivalries. We got Big East Big 12 battle. Actually, 2 Big East Big 12 battle games. Sorry, Butler. We're going to be leaving you out of this discussion. They play Tennessee Tech at 2:00. The fact that we're leaving them out means that is a guaranteed loss now for Butler. I'm so sorry. The rest of this, we got South Carolina at Georgetown at noon, Oklahoma at Villanova at 12:30, DePaul at Loyola Chicago at 4, Wisconsin at Marquette at 4:30, Providence at URI at 5, the Ocean State battle, and West Virginia at Xavier at 6:30. I want to start with that Villanova-Oklahoma game here, Tommy, because I think I would categorize this game as a must-win game for Villanova. Do you agree?
No, I wouldn't say must win. It's going to be a big game for sure, but I don't think that the fate of our resume is hanging in the balance of this game. especially if Cam Whitmore does not return now. Villanova, they need to get it back on track. I agree in that aspect, and it all starts on the defensive end. In 4 of their last 5 games, they dug themselves into a hole that they have to dig themselves out of. 16 to 20 point disadvantages in the second half, having to come back from that. So they have. I mean, they took Iowa. They were down by, I believe it was 20 to Iowa State, and they took them to overtime. So it starts on the defensive end with them. They got a lot of work to do on the offensive end, but it starts on the defensive end.
Yeah, they're going to need to stop that Oklahoma team. I think is having a better year than people expected Oklahoma to have this year. Maybe not. I mean, they're about where they started in the preseason rankings in KenPom. It's a better Oklahoma team than in years past, at least. There with Porter Moser as the head coach. It's a defense that is top 30 now in KenPom. So yeah, that might be a defensive kind of battle. Does Villanova end up pulling it out? What do you think?
Nothing would surprise me in that game, but I do think that they're going to pull it out. The game's at the Wells Fargo Center. It's a whiteout. They're happy to be home. They hate the West Coast. Back home now, got the crowd behind them. I think that they're going to figure some things out, and the shots have to start falling at some point, right? I mean, wide open looks they're bricking. So, yeah, I do think that they pull this one out in a game that is on the verge of a must-win.
Yeah, I would call it a must-win just because I think you can't go. You can excuse losses away from home. As soon as you're at home, you got to make it count. I think it was a must-win in the same way the Butler-Kansas State game tonight was kind of a must-win for Butler. It's an opportunity for a quality win against the power conference team at home. You're not going to get another one of those until conference play, so you got to make the most of it. I think it's a must-win in that sense. Chris, what do you think about this one? Does Villanova get it back on track?
I kind of don't think so. I think Grant Sherfield poses some matchup problems for Villanova where they are right now with their roster, and then the Groves brothers are a pretty solid 1-2 punch in the front court. I kind of think they lose this one, and I think they lose to Penn the next game. Wow. I'm a big Penn believer. The team's well coached, and a similar thing. Jordan Dingle and Clark Slackert, the two backcourt players for Penn, I think is better than Villanova's backcourt right now. I don't know. I really do think that this is a must win though, the Oklahoma game. Right? If you start 2-6, because they're not going to go into Creighton and win that one. I don't think they go into UConn and win that one. You're kind of running out of chances for like quality wins right now. Yeah, they have to win this next game, I think.
Yeah, it'll be a big one there. You said Wells Fargo Center. It should be a great atmosphere. So I think that's kind of the biggest must watch game of the day in the Big East. We got a lot of good games here. I say we just quickly run through these from top to bottom, the rest of them, and we're going to give our thoughts on it. South Carolina, Georgetown. We'll go lightning round on this. And we'll start with you, Chris, on South Carolina, Georgetown. Does the magic continue for Georgetown? Does the magic of playing a team close continue, or does this not go Georgetown's way?
South Carolina stinks. They're the worst team in the SEC by far. Give me Georgetown by 10. I don't think that one's close. I really do.
Wow, you're saying it continues.
They're the worst Power 5 team, in my opinion.
Well, Georgetown is at 150 in KenPom. South Carolina is at 141. Yeah, this might be a must-watch game, honestly. It'll be competitive. It'll be entertaining. I don't know if it'll be good. Tommy, does Georgetown pull it out?
Yeah, what a pillow fight this one's going to be. I mean, Gigi Jackson's a stud. Ohio State transfer, Michi Johnson. I mean, they have the talent, but, I mean, at this point, the women's team might be better. Shout out Dawn Staley, Philly girl. I think that Georgetown actually pulls this one out somehow.
Yeah, let's go 3-0 here in Georgetown. Why not? This is going to be a big day for the Hoyas. We're calling it. We are calling it. Next up, we're gonna go past the Butler Tennessee Tech one. DePaul at Loyola Chicago. I think we might actually have to hold off on calling this one until this DePaul Samford game is over. We'll circle back. We'll do that one last. Wisconsin at Marquette. Does Marquette's magic continue here, Tommy?
It should. I mean, they jumped up 25 spots or something like that in KenPom. It's a different game now. I mean, Chucky Hepburn and Tyler Wall are studs. Wisconsin shoots threes almost better than they shoot twos somehow. I mean, they shoot twos 39% 2-point percentage, 36% 3-point percentage. Marquette should win, so I'm going to give them an edge. Just a little one.
Yeah, it's Marquette, the 2 home games this week against quality opponents. So being at home helps. Do they get 2 home wins this week, Chris?
I do think so. Wisconsin right now, they're the 11th best in 3-point percentage defense, the 19th best in free throw percentage defense. I think 2 somewhat uncontrollable metrics. I think they're due for some regression. I think, Marquette handles them. Give me Marquette by 6.
Yeah, I'm agreeing there. Ken Palm has this as a 5-point game, so you got him covering that one too. I like that from Marquette. I think they keep it going. The next one, it's Providence at URI. URI with the other Miller brother there as a head coach there, Archie Miller. Things have been interesting for Rhode Island in year 1 there. This is a program that's not in a great spot right now. Chris, do the Friars actually get a win here on the road?
They do. Rhode Island is abysmal offensively. 331st in 2-point percentage, 358th in 3-point percentage. They just can't make shots. Providence wins that one, I think, walking away.
You in agreement there, Tommy?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game. And URI is decent on defense. Like Chris said, they're just abysmal on offense. Providence gives up to 3. But URI won't have anything to do with what Providence gives up. They got a guy, Brayon Freeman. He takes a lot of shots for that Rhode Island team. 37% of his team shots. That's top 5 in the country. I got a question for you, Matt. Is it a rivalry?
Well, if you asked Ed Cooley before this week, he would have said no. He apologized for those comments we had a couple years ago, earlier this week, where he said it wasn't a real rivalry. I'm scarred by these games. Both of the times that I got to go broadcast Providence at URI, the Friars lost in awful fashion to worse URI teams. When they played in 2019 and 2020, that was the Friar team that came around and ended up playing really well in Big East play. They looked awful in the non-conference that year. They were 7-6. They got killed in some games, and not a good team. They lost to that URI team, and they had 22 turnovers in that game in that building. The way the Friars played tonight might be a similar performance. I don't know if URI has the ability on offense to actually make it interesting, but this might be first to 50 wins. And if you want to make your offense look better, getting out in transition will help. So if the Friars are turning it over, URI is going to get those looks. I'll say Friars win, but Rhode Island covers in that one. The last game of the night, and the second to last of the Big East Big 12 games here, West Virginia at Xavier. This is an interesting one. I really like this game. I think it should be fun, kind of sandwiched in there in between some of the conference championship games on Saturday in college football. Tommy, what do you think about this one? Is Xavier going to get a home win over West Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, Bob Huggins just doesn't beat Xavier, like, ever. Even back at his time at Cincinnati. They have Xavier's a very good 3-point shooting team. West Virginia is slightly above average at defending it. Bart Torvik really likes West Virginia. I don't. I'm not huge on them, at least right now, until Manhattan transfer Jose Perez can play. He's not eligible until spring, though. But yeah, I do think Xavier pulls this out, and comfortably.
West Virginia is at 26 in Ken Palm right now. They started the year at 73. So quite the jump there, and they just crushed Florida on Sunday too. They beat Florida 84-55. That's the team Xavier played 90-83 out in the Phil Knight Legacy tournament. So yeah, I think this is the most interesting matchup, the second most interesting of the day. Next to that Villanova Oklahoma one. Chris, how does that go?
Yeah, I'll take Xavier as well. I think it'll be really close. West Virginia is really good. I really do think that they're probably the best West Virginia team that has been for a couple of years. But yeah, I think Xavier comes out really motivated and gets a big win.
Yeah, I think this is, I don't know if there's any big storylines here other than it's 2 good teams. And I think Xavier's at home and probably the slightly better team. And that's going to be all they need to take that one. We're going to circle back to this DePaul Loyola Chicago game. The game that's currently in action for DePaul, they're up 97-93 with a minute and change here in overtime. And they're showing the scoreboard right now on the screen with all the guys in 20 points in this one. This is the inner city game here, the little rivalry there with DePaul and Loyola Chicago. Chris, I'm coming back to you for the last segment here. Does DePaul end up doing it? They're technically on the road here.
I think they do. The biggest reason is Loyola Chicago turns the ball over a bunch. I don't know if Drew Valentine is an awesome coach. I think Stubblefield gets the coaching edge. DePaul beats them. I think they hold on.
Yeah. Fun fact here, Samford, who DePaul's playing right now, 133 in Ken Palm. Loyola Chicago, 134. So they're same spot. Where I think you're basically just doing the game over. Obviously different coaching and everything. These teams are about as good as each other. Tommy, wrap us up here. Does DePaul win it?
Yeah, I'm not watching this DePaul game right now, but I would love to watch a replay against Loyola Chicago. That'd be awesome. Chris said that Loyola Chicago turns the ball over a lot. I mean, they're dead last in turnover percentage.
It's as bright red as it gets on Ken Palm.
It's bright red as it gets. Philip Alston is a guy that they might have to game plan for a little bit. He draws a lot of fouls. DePaul fouls a lot, so they have to stay disciplined. Ken Palm has them losing by 1. I don't think that they lose. I think that they win by 5-10.
Yeah, I like that. I like that prediction. I'll stick with it. We'll go with DePaul here, even though they're on the road. We'll take the Blue Demons in this one. We're no DePaul haters on this podcast. But you know who is a DePaul hater? Chris, I don't know if you saw this. The game notes for Creighton, they have a box. They have a box on the game notes that's just active streaks for Creighton, and one of them is 16 straight wins over DePaul. Just completely unnecessary.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
catching strays.
Yeah, it's completely unnecessary, and I love it. Doing it for the rivalry there. I think that's gonna do it for us. There's 40-something seconds left. We're gonna end up ending this right before that game ends. So that's gonna do it for us. That's Chris Thedinga. That's Tommy Godin. I'm Matt St. Jean. We're gonna catch you next time. You can find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, follow on Twitter, read the content on the site. We're gonna have some stuff up, some written content about these games, so stay tuned for it. And we're gonna be talking to you Sunday morning after all of this to recap all these games that we just talked about. Thanks for listening and or